Hi, this is Bruce Boxleitner, and you're listening to Then Is Now podcast.
Rise and shine, my sinners. When Father Evil starts his day, he gets a little deadly. Deadly Grounds coffee has the richest, smoothest flavor you'll find anywhere. It's sinfully delicious. Once you go deadly, you never go back. Order yours at getdeadly.com. Coffee's so good, it's scary.
What kind of a sick school is this?
Uh-oh, Dongo!
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
You got spunk. I hate spunk.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger.
Oh, righty then.
How you doing? Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Say hello to my little friend!
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
What are you people? On dope?
Stop whining.
I got a crap on deck that can choke a donkey.
Who is your daddy?
I'm sorry, but all questions must be submitted in writing.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Can I do that?
I'll be back.
A dynamite! Show me the money!
Don't! Up your nose with your rubber hose.
A what?
I'm sailing! I'm sailing!
Groovy.
You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
Here's looking at you, kid.
We got no food, we got no jobs, our pets' heads are falling off!
Come to the coast and get together, have a few laughs.
Hear that, Elizabeth? I'm coming to join you, honey!
I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV.
I love it when a plan comes together.
What we do is if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to
11, exactly. One louder.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
We're on a mission from God.
Hello and welcome to Then Is Now podcast. I am your host Rigor, and unfortunately I'm going it alone again today as Chris is, he's got a very busy schedule. However, joining me once again are George and Gene from the Drive-In Super Monster-Rama, and they're going to tell us all about their upcoming September 2022 event at the Riverside Drive-In Theater in Vandergrift, Pennsylvania. This year would have been horror icon Christopher Lee's 100th birthday, and to celebrate that, George and Gene have a great showing of 8 of his amazing horror films. Each April and September, they play 4 horror films on a Friday and Saturday. So you get 8 great classic horror films, some of which you may have never seen before. So George and Gene are back to tell us all about the cool films they've lined up for the end of the month. Class is in session.
I have a bad feeling about this.
How could I possibly be expected to handle school on a day like this?
Food fight!
Hey, you in my class? I am today.
I think you should consider transferring to shop class. Woo! Now, very few students are severely injured in shop class.
Bueller.
When you were in school,
Bueller.
did you ever cut class?
Bueller. Yeah, I guess I did. Sure, most kids cut classes.
Good, sign this. He's sick.
I get so lonely when I hear that third attendance bell ring and all my kids are not here.
7 years of college down the drain.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
You lack discipline. As long as I'm here, there will be no grades or gold stars or demerits. We're gonna have recess all the time. Woo! Go, play, and have fun now!
Okay, folks, we are here once again with the great George and Gene. Welcome, guys.
Hey, thanks for letting us come on. Good to be here.
Oh, yeah. So glad to have you back again.
Yeah, it's great to be back, and we've been doing this for a few times now, and again, thanks for your interest in supporting the event and wanting to talk about it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Now, the last time you guys were on was for this past April's event, which was another Back to the 80s weekend. And I'm just going to quickly read the list of films that you showed. You showed Halloween 2, Terror Train, Midnight, Effects, Evil Dead 2, Reanimator, Dr. Butcher, MD, and Zombie 3. And as I told you guys last year, I wasn't able to attend, but I did watch most of them from home, especially the ones that I hadn't seen before on that same weekend. So I was there in spirit. But I got to know, how did it go, guys?
Well, no, it was a big success. I guess Gene will take it over in a second or a minute. But no, it was the first time it was officially sold out on record as far as full to capacity, and that we really we could hardly squeeze anybody else in, and we actually had to turn a few people away that didn't buy advance tickets.
Wow.
So it was it's reached its peak, and I'm so happy about it. The April show, we've been getting of course the numbers show that the people showing up. We're getting a lot again, and we're getting more and more younger people coming to this. They're very enthusiastic. They just love coming out. They love being there, and it's a great scene. It's a great big party, and it went so well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We've sold out before for the last, pretty much since fall 2020. We've been selling out the tickets online and stuff. But when you pass sellout, you hit what's called capacity, and that's what he was talking about. So, a certain amount of people and car spaces are in the drive-in, and that's where you want to be when you sell out in terms of like the numbers. But it's still flexible for a few people to come up, And then when you hit capacity, that's just the end of the game. There's absolutely no more space whatsoever. And in fact, because of this and because of how the Riverside has been doing, they've moved the camping back several areas. How far back more did it go, George? Do you have any idea? I know.
I don't remember exactly, but what Gene is saying is actually, this is happening for the first time for the September show because of the way April was, just so they could situate everything better. Correct. So we go, as this show progresses, you start to realize, well, what can we do to make it better or more accommodating? And that was one of the things. Well, that comes from the Riverside itself. That was their decision, and it's
right, because there was some spaces that would have actually possibly been used, but people were set up in double camping and stuff in the back, and it's like that's kind of done now. So every single space is going to kind of count at this point because we don't want to have to turn people away. And I have to say, my big impression was, I told George and I were walking through the field with everybody, and I had an anxiety attack, a hell of an anxiety attack.
Oh no!
And I did. It's fine, and I lost reality for a second. You know how you do that?
Yeah.
And you're like, am I in a dream or am I in reality? And I haven't had one of those in God knows how many years. And I just thought, what the fuck have we done? It's like, oh my God. Because it's like that moment that you go when I've worked on stage before, and it's like that fine line that you walk when you're in front of a crowd or with a crowd where you go, I'm comfortable with this massive body of people, or I'm terrified of this massive body of people. And I guess you realize at that point that you've accumulated such a following for the show and such that they're dependent on you providing something that's top-notch entertainment, and that becomes a little daunting and scary. It's not something that we can't do and that we've never done, but the moment you stop to think about it, it's like, can I walk the tightrope or will I fall and die? Is what it's like. So it was a great. You don't look down. It was a great feeling to have it happen, and George was so excited. I mean, you look at the highway was backed up for like a half mile or a mile or further, and people were just pouring in. It was like, oh my God, the gates are open. They're everywhere. And it was extremely successful for that. And also the people that stayed later, we saw a longer crowd throughout the night. It wasn't just people showing up for 2 movies and going, as often one sees. And we took a big gamble with that Friday night film order by doing the two local Pittsburgh films, Effects and Midnight and Effects, and it went over very well, especially Midnight. And there were a lot of people that, you had your people that were like, oh, well, no big deal. I don't understand, what's this movie about, kind of stuff. But the majority of the people that we engaged and spoke to about this, the combination of those films, was that, this is something wonderful that you guys did that we've never seen before. It's Pittsburgh-based filmmaking. There's so much more that we can talk about. And what we found out from those two films was that it engaged the viewers much higher than the popular films did. That it's great to see Halloween 2 and Terror Train on the big screen and everything, but given the opportunity to see these films for the first time, they found themselves coming back and buying it on Blu-ray and talking about it and wanting to know as much as they could know about the two movies. So I was very happy that worked out, because it was a programming gamble that we agreed on, and it actually worked for our benefit. So there's that.
That's amazing. So I want to make sure I understood you guys correctly. So for this year, I want to know if they did this also last year. It's because the drive-in allows camping, like you said, in the back of the back of the theater. They're cutting down on those camping spaces to accommodate more cars? Is that what I was hearing?
No, it's more of a consolidating, situating things that are they have it down to a science. Luckily that's the stuff we don't have to be too concerned with when we're putting this together. Yeah, because they already have had done something where they put markers, because you don't have drive-in speakers anymore. So for the last few years they've been putting poles, which is supposed to represent the space of two cars, so that people, so when people do park to watch the movies, it's somewhat organized, and you can realize that this space still fit two cars, and it does, and so it started with that. And now with the camping thing, they just want to because they can probably fit more campers if it's just a little more scientific thinking is involved with the situating of them. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. So we're going to see. Looking forward to seeing how that goes this year.
Yeah, it's not going to cut down on the amount of camping that's available. What it's going to do is consolidate the space and make it much more usable for both people and such. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's great. That's so cool.
That's what it's going to do.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So why don't we dive into this year's September Drive-In Super Monster-Rama showing? Tell us about the theme and the films that you're going to show.
Well, this year it's 2022, and Christopher Lee would have turned 100 in May, so it's I wanted to do something for his 100th. What would have been his 100th birthday? We did the same thing with Peter Cushing back in 2013, and that did well. But this is something that I've been thinking about for years. So, it's basically it's a whole weekend of Christopher Lee movies, but that entails all kinds of different. I mean, you're getting films from all different decades. You're getting films from different cult directors. You're getting other famous horror stars on the big screen. So I think it's, even though it centers on Christopher Lee, the program is very well rounded. I think it is, and the feedback that we've gotten so far about the lineup, everybody's complimenting us about it.
Yeah, it's an amazing lineup.
Yeah, it's like, so we're starting off with Curse of Frankenstein, which was Lee's first Hammer film. We never shown that. We've shown Horror of Dracula before. So we have a great opener in The Curse of Frankenstein. It's something that people have been wanting to see us, asking us to show for quite some time.
It's as I say, you can't go wrong with Christopher Lee films. So.
Yeah,
exactly.
And if you're a Peter Cushing fan, that's a real, that's also his first Hammer film. It's their first pairing together. Well, their first pairing together as real co-stars. They had been actually featured in a couple of movies together without any scenes. Moulin Rouge was one of them, but I'm saying it's their first, team pairing in a genre film. So it's a pretty big title for us.
More than 100 years ago, in a mountain village in Switzerland, lived a man whose strange experiments with the dead have since become a legend. A legend that is still told with horror the world over.
We've only just started, just opened the door. Look, now's the time to go through that door and find what lies beyond it. But don't you see, Paul? We've discovered the source of life itself, and we've used it to restore a creature that was dead.
This is Frankenstein, who revolted against nature, who experimented with the devil and was forever cursed. His unwilling collaborator was Paul Kremp.
I can't prove you murdered, but I can stop you using his brain.
Why, he has no further use for it?
Don't be a fool! Be careful! You damn it!
Only 2 women ever entered this house of evil.
Elizabeth, come back!
Elizabeth, the lovely cousin who had promised to marry him, and Justine the maid, who kept passionate and secret rendezvous with her master.
Won't you understand you're in real danger? What Victor is doing is dangerous to everyone in the house. Now, you cannot possibly conceive what dreadful thing he's planning to do.
What are you trying to tell me, Paul? That Victor's wicked? Insane?
Wicked, insane, evil. Call Frankenstein what you will. A demon had made a man-made monster, and now the monster was the master.
Paul, what are you going to do? For your sake and to protect Elizabeth, I've so far kept silent. But now I shall go to the authorities and have them destroy that creature. And see that you pay for these atrocities. No!
I think it's a good way to start the show.
Yeah, and Curse of Frankenstein is the one that pretty much started the whole horror thing for Hammer Studios. You know, it came out a year before Horror of Dracula, and that was the one that started it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the first Frankenstein movie to be shot entirely in color.
Yep.
And released in color. And and
it was a very brave departure from the American and world audience was so used to the Universal Karloff thing going on, and for Hammer to take this upon themselves to just license the story and go for it, not knowing that they could have any similarity whatsoever to the Universal production, and shooting it in color, like George said, it was a big deal. I mean, and I think the scene that sort of sped up scene where they zoom in on his face when he pulls off the bandages is and that's in our trailer. Which was shot by the wonderful local filmmaker Lance Parkin. It's amazing if you haven't seen the trailer. If Lance hears this podcast, he's genius. And it's iconic. It's just iconic. And so much of this weekend is going to be iconic, as George was saying. There's so much that iconic scenes in each one of these films that people will identify with. It's a really nice time.
Oh yeah. I mean, I have to say, in Curse of Frankenstein, when I was a kid, I didn't understand, like you said, the whole fact that they couldn't use the Universal design, so I didn't understand why the Frankenstein monster looked different. But when I look at it now, he could give Reagan and The Exorcist a run for her money, because it's pretty damn scary.
Yeah, it's a very frightening face. It's definitely, the makeup was by Phil Leakey, who's one of Hammer's famous makeup man, along with Roy Ashton in the early days. And it is like a road accident of a face, and along with like a kind of Mo Howard haircut. But it's very iconic. Yeah.
Yeah. So then after that, so this is Friday we're talking about, Friday, September 23rd. After that, you've got House of Long Shadows, which has, all 3 horror icons. It's got, Lee Cushing and Vincent Price, as well as John Carradine, so he'd be the 4th one.
Mm-hmm.
All I need is somewhere I can have total isolation, and above all, atmosphere.
What lives in this house?
No one would want to live in Valpatermana.
What stalks these halls?
It's a cursed place.
Yes, I saw the movie.
What hides in these shadows? And who is playing that piano? Welcome to the House of the Long Shadows, home of mystery, suspense, danger. And now the four masters of horror are moving in. Vincent Price.
We came here this evening to unlock the final door to our destiny.
Christopher Lee.
It would seem, Mr. McGee, that we are imprisoned here.
Peter Cushing.
It is all I have ever known. Fear.
John Carradine.
Death is our only true destiny.
Joined by Desi Arnaz.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
House of the Long Shadows.
You could lose your life.
Worse.
Will this talented young man wager his very life for one night with this girl and these strange bedfellows? House of the Long Shadows.
There's one missing.
What is its diabolical secret?
And suddenly, out he jumped. He didn't even look human.
Which key unlocks the horrible truth?
I'm afraid it has begun.
And who spiked the punch? House of the Long Shadows. It's delightfully puzzling.
It would appear that you are creating a mystery where there is none.
And a frightfully good time. He must have heard us singing. House of the Long Shadows. The murderously funny mystery with a twist.
Yes, I see what you mean.
House of the Long Shadows. Vincent Price, that's me. Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, John Carradine, and Desi Arnaz. In a Golan Globus production of a Pete Walker film. House of the Long Shadows. From Canon Releasing.
Does Vincent Price have scenes with Lee and Cushing at all?
Oh, they sure do. They're in a lot of scenes together. In fact, they're what turns out to be brothers.
Oh, that's right.
They're actually brothers. And John Carradine is the father, and Sheila Keith, who was, she's like, she became in the '70s. She became like the female. The female Peter Cushing or Christopher Lee, because she was in all these Pete Walker movies, and she played some pretty nasty, evil characters. And this is directed by Pete Walker.
Right.
Who are we talking about, real quick?
We're talking about Sheila Keith.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The actress.
Sorry, cut off a second. My apologies.
Yeah, no, so, the cast is wonderful. This is a movie, and this is now this brings us to the 80s. This movie came out in 83. I don't think it played in the U.S. till 83 or 84. It was released here by Canon, and it's so, it's I was thinking of doing this, throwing this in April. It's a film I've been wanting. This is a film that's been on the back burner for years to show because of all it represents, and it's something a little bit different than the usual Cushing Lee Price movie where it brings it to the 80s, and it's a fun movie. And it's got some people are not have criticisms about it, but I think it has a pretty big following, and I think it's for the most part entertaining. And plus, we get to show our first Pete Walker film. Gina and I are both big Pete Walker fans. We love his 70s horror and exploitation. So
yeah.
So I think it's and that's why I wanted to show a second, because I wanted it to be towards the beginning of the show. And,
right.
And you know what? It has a nice modern feel, because and we talked about this, George. You go from the beginning of Christopher Lee and Hammer to this ultimate evolution to House of Long Shadows, and it's nice to see the comparison of the two back to back.
Yeah, we're jumping a lot of years on a lot of film history, a lot of British horror history, but I'm very happy that those, that's playing second and Curse is playing first. I'm excited about House of Long Shadows. It's probably one of the films. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing everything that weekend, but that's one of the films I'm really looking forward to seeing on the big screen, because it was something that when it came out, I would have surely went to see in the theater, but being in New York, I don't think it ever played in this area. I know it had like a limited run in on the West Coast, like I guess in California. I don't know where else it played. I mean, it was quickly, brought to home video. But I remember like renting it, when it was new to video, and I thought it was direct to video because as far as I knew at the time, I didn't, follow it. You could see any proof of it getting any theatrical play, because that's this is years before the internet. You were just depending on what you saw in Fangoria or whatever. Or,
I was about to say,
newspapers.
wasn't it listed in that back section? Wasn't that back section there was like a little back section release page in Fangoria, and I think I remember seeing it. I mean, it was the listings in Fangoria were as contemporary as it could be for the time, and I guess you would be looking for that movie about that month or the next month, and I don't remember ever seeing that film there. I think seeing it there only, and maybe when Famous Monsters was still around, and that was it, and having no acknowledgement of it until it came on to VHS rental, I think.
Yeah, it was one of those big Canon. Yep, the MGM had the Canon. They were at that time. They had the Canon
fact that they were all in
films.
Pushing the fact that everybody was in the film. That's the big selling point.
And then it was on HBO. It used to be on HBO a lot.
Yes, yeah.
It was shown on HBO a lot, so I was able to tape it off there.
It fits into that. It fits into that time period for some of the horror films that were coming out around that time period. It fits into that sort of same feeling, like Monster Club.
Right.
Comes to mind. Yeah. Maybe I mean I think it's in a similar genre in terms of the when it was made and how the production was done, and with the multiple, these guys are kind of like retired from the business sort of, and they're getting together to have fun and make these cool movies. And I think that's more. I think that, and you see that what you see in the acting in that film, House of Long Shadows, you can actually see, I think, the pleasure that they get out of interacting with one another, and the irony and the plot twists and stuff. They have a lot of fun with the role.
Yeah.
Which makes it unique and exciting for us to see them all together doing that. And I think that's another great thing about the film.
Right.
On that level too.
Yeah. I grew up in the Boston area, and I don't think that that played in Boston either, because I probably would have seen it. My parents would have taken me to see it because I was 13. But
Bill would be the one to ask. Ask Bill. Cause Bill would know that. He'd probably be the one to tell you where it played, because he's pretty much an expert on that stuff from doing his project. So.
Right, exactly. And you know what? When I asked the question, is this the one where they weren't all together in the film, I was thinking of Scream and Scream Again, where I don't think they had.
Yeah, they all were as well. Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, Scream and Scream Again only.
Talking about.
Yeah. We did show Scream and Scream Again, one of the earlier shows. It's actually one of my personal favorite movies. A horror movie, and that film Cushing is a cameo, and then Lee and Price are in it, and they have some brief scenes at the end.
Yeah,
and that film, even though it's got the three marquee names in it, that's just part of the fascination of that film. I never held it against it like some people. It's like, why are these? They're in it together, but they don't have. That's just one of the facets of this fascinating film. I mean, this is my opinion. This fascinating. Modernized science fiction, horror film from the late '60s. That's got all these interesting ideas coming from Christopher Wicking's screenplay, and maybe a bit confusing, but I think it all gels together, and I think that film is just filled with good character actors, and it's very colorful, and like I said, that is one of my favorite movies. That to me is like the ultimate cult horror movie.
Right. And speaking of character actors, the film you're going to show after House of Long Shadows on Friday the 23rd is Count Dracula from 1970, which is directed by the legendary Jess Franco, and it's got the great character actors, Herbert Lom and Klaus Kinski, which I really enjoy that movie too.
Listen to them. Children of the night. What music they make.
Lucy!
Yet behind the legend, behind the fantasy, there are certain facts.
That's what I was talking about at the beginning of the show. How even though this weekend is devoted to Lee, there's a lot of diversity in the movies that we're showing because we're covering a lot of. We haven't shown a Jess Franco movie yet, so this is the first one, and this might be one of the more. I don't know. I guess we could call it more mainstream as far as Jess Franco's career is concerned, but it definitely applies, and it's definitely an interesting take. This is Lee doing Dracula outside of Hammer for the first time, and it has its fans, it has its critics, but again, I like the film. I think overall it's a good looking production,
and I think it was a good attempt to try to be closer to the novel.
Yeah, a lot of people, like, the criticism is that it starts really well, and then it kind of like, as it evolves, it's not as good as it starts. Like, it starts really faithful to the novel, and then it kind of. But that's just. This is just opinions out there. I mean, I don't take it that to heart. I enjoy the movie, and I think a lot of people do actually.
Yeah,
I think it's a good choice because I'll tell you why. It's because Christopher Lee, it's getting away with having him play Dracula, but not the Hammer Dracula. And in interviews he said this was his favorite portrayal of the character, different from the Hammer one, if I'm not mistaken, and that he really was proud of making this film. So that's another reason why. If you've ever watched any interviews with Christopher Lee, he's really blatant about how he feels about things. He despised making Curse of the Crimson Altar, and George and I think it's like the greatest movie ever. And I remember there's an interview on one of those old UK collection DVDs, and it may be the one that was transferred to the. Is it on the Odeon one, the Odeon Blu-ray, George, the one where he says it's an interview about the movie on the disc, and he's saying it's the worst piece of shit I ever made. It's like,
I don't remember, but I've probably seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's talking about his career and about the movies that he enjoyed making, and the highs and lows. And Prince of Darkness, he loved I guess, despite the fact that he refused to speak. That's the big story about that one. He didn't want to do Prince of Darkness. And then he agreed to do it, and then he said that only if they let him write the script, change the script, and then it changed to I'm not going to talk at all during the entire film, and they let him get away with it. And really, it's the truth. And, I think up until the very last film that he did, the one with Joanne Lumley and such in the 70s, I think he pretty much. I feel like he had a lot of control over what he was saying and doing with the character. But in this interview, he says, yes, I made this awful piece of shit called Curse of the Crimson Altar. It's the worst film I've ever made. And I thought, wow, here's the guy that went to do the featurette for this. And he's finding out that, geez, well, thanks a whole lot there, Chris. I thought I was going to turn in something, a little more friendly towards the actual genre.
Well, he did that film at the time. He did it at the time because Karloff was in it. He wanted to do a film with Karloff.
Right.
I think, like, from what I've also heard interviews where he was thinking Karloff wasn't going to be around for much longer, and he was an opportunity to make it. He already done a film about almost a decade earlier. Quarters of Blood with Karloff, but this, yeah. But getting back to Count Dracula, it's so we have our first Jess Franco movie, and like G was saying, it's a good choice because it became available to show. We were able to book it easily, and we've shown a lot of the Hammer Dracula. I wanted to get away from some of those, and he was the perfect opportunity. And he does have a lot more screen time than he does in a lot of those Hammer films. So
nice.
As much as I love them, but I think Count Dracula is a great representation of a lead horror film, vampire movie, Dracula movie for this weekend. So I'm happy that we're showing it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. And my new show, I've got a third podcast now called The Cult Movie Lounge, and my co-host is Robert Monell, who's got this award-winning blog about Jess Franco, and I'm going to have to fast-track that one and put Count Dracula in there so we can try and release it around the time of your event in the drive-in.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that. And then your fourth film on Friday the 23rd is Castle of the Living Dead from '64. And I remember this being particularly scary, and it's got Donald Sutherland in a supporting role too, which is always a plus.
Slowly, relentlessly, destiny ticks off the terrifying minutes of anguish that freeze the blood. The Castle of the Living Dead. In an atmosphere of horror, the story of a man who violates the forbidden frontiers of science to arrive at a frightful but lucid madness and atrocious inhuman crime. Starring the unforgettable creator of Dracula, Christopher Lee, in a new triumphant performance, breathtaking as never before, sadistic and pitiless, subtle and monstrous. It is a film with a thrill a minute. It will hold you spellbound with its unexpected, shocking surprises, in which tragic reality and unearthly fantasy blend in an atmosphere of horror and suspense.
Donald Sutherland in supporting role. He actually plays two roles. He's a police lieutenant or a sergeant, but he's also plays an old witch hag.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
I thought maybe it was three roles. Is it three roles? Wasn't there another one he did too?
No, it's those two. Unless he did, was shown from the back. But no, it's those two roles, and he's dubbed as the witch. This was a Paul Maslansky production that was shot in Italy, and it's an interesting black and white period piece. Again, with Lee playing, you could tell they were harping on Lee's Dracula persona for this. He plays a count that basically petrifies living things in his castle, and his acting troupe comes up to it. But like you think, it's like something well, here's the thing with this movie, and somebody reminded me of this because this was in the United States. This movie was sold directly to television by AIP TV, so it's 64, but I think it showed up by the mid 60s or late 60s. It was already on, TV, and we grew up watching it on late night TV. But I think this could very well be the first time that this movie has been shown in a U.S. movie theater.
Wow.
Probably,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I just looked it up. He did play, Sutherland did play three roles. He played Sergeant Paul, he played the witch, and the old man.
Yeah, because I thought, Because here's the thing. I knew he played multiple roles, and when I watched it with somebody, and I said, "Wow, he played two polar opposite characters," and they said two. He played three, and I was like, "What do you mean?"
Which one was the old? I mean, I watched the movie again. In fact, I
don't remember
it again not too long ago. Maybe it's just like something you see very briefly. But I apologize, Gene, because now that you say, I mean, now it springs to mind that there was the three, but I couldn't think of because I just watched it, and maybe it's probably something. It's probably a character you don't really see.
Yeah,
maybe in a crowd shot.
Find the third character, because I don't think we know where it's at.
Unless it's not true, too. It could be not true.
Well, I did get that info off of IMDb, so sometimes you got to take that with a grain of salt.
It could be not true. Okay, he could have just been, doing something like like a background character or something,
right,
and not get credit for it.
And also, while you're in that IMDb, that's the filming location with the giant statues and stuff. I guess that place is still there. There was a It's a weird. It's a really strange location with a bunch of these huge weird statues and such, and sort of
the one that's like a big head. Yeah,
exactly, right.
Oh wow!
And they make nice use of that. I've seen it in other movies. I remember there was one of those Italian spy movies with Kerwin Matthews that was shot in color that used it. So it was interesting to see it in color. Yeah. There was, I forget, this was one of those. He did like some spy movies in the '60s, and can't remember the name. I can't remember which one it was, but I did get to see those images in color of the location, which is great.
Oh, that's awesome.
And, another thing about this movie. Wait, in Christopher Lee or Donald Sutherland?
Well, Christopher Lee, I was going to say the thing about in this film that I noticed immediately, and I know you'll support this, is that the way he plays, I think, is Count Drago. It seems that he has this really like recessed black makeup around his eyes and stuff, and Lee commands the character in such a fashion as he did with Dracula and all the other films, where he creates a very sinister figure that seems to float sort of, what's the word I'm looking for, in harmony with the weird environment, the castle that he lives in. That's one of the things about him. When he shows up, he's sort of like a living part of the living set. Do you follow what I'm saying? Like when you watch movies, you see villains and stuff, and you see like the castles and all this stuff. But there seems to be this weird organic connection always with me, where I see him and I see him in these locations, and I go, he fits. This character is believable as being this weird,
I know what you mean,
kooky castle or something. He accentuates his characters accentuate the sets and vice versa. And sometimes in these movies with these actors and such, you don't get that type of, fluidity that you get with Christopher Lee. And he did it in the Star Wars film. He did it in the Star Wars films and Lord of the Rings. He just has an ability as an actor to become that person, and that was believable in that setting. And that's fantastic. And it's one of the things that I've always enjoyed in his films, and in particular in this film, I just remember thinking, oh my God, only somebody as weird as this guy could live in this place,
Yeah.
And right, because I mean, it's like, you always see the way people parody, like, the monsters and stuff, where it's like you see monsters and living in a spooky house or something, and you have these parodies, but he fits so well in this film, and the character is so strange. It's the perfect thing, like George said, for like American television. And I know it was on Killer Theater here. I think I've seen it listed back in the day, but it's the perfect thing that somebody would turn on a Saturday night at midnight and see him in that castle and go, Christopher Lee's on this weird movie in this castle, and he's an evil count, So, and that plays well to audiences, especially younger people that didn't grow up seeing that the way George and I did on television as a kid. This is sort of their moment as a kid to see this at the drive-in on a big screen and feel that same sort of weird, sensibility about it, I guess. I don't know.
Oh yeah, and
we had Channel 11 in New York where I grew up. They used to show it. Usually they showed it like 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning. There's this thing called the Channel 11 Film Festival, and it was always on there. It was like, yeah.
Oh yeah,
So,
when we first had,
you have to stay up really late.
When we first had cable, we'd get WOR and PIX, Channel 9 and 11 from New York, and I'd stay up late with my mother, and I'm pretty sure that's where I saw it the first time. I haven't seen it since then.
Probably.
But I did just quickly look it up. The castle is in Italy. It's Orsini Odescalchi Castle. So I don't know if that means anything to anybody, but that's what the castle was called. And I mean, I'm so jealous. I really wish I could get down there and see this.
Though?
Is what?
That's such a plus for these films like this, because even in the Hammer films, they had to build these crazy sets and stuff. And when you have these films made in Spain or especially in Italy, there's sort of this entire landscape of these crazy places that you can just, acquisition or whatever and use for your filming location.
Oh, yeah.
And that's great about that. That makes the film all the more exciting and atmospheric. And totally. But I'm watching this tonight after we hang up, by the way. You guys got me pumped.
Yeah, I'm going to have to watch it too.
Count Dracula also the same kind of thing in reverse of the Hammer films with all the sets. They use real locations. So his castle's a real location, and it's
I mean, heck, look at what Charles Band did. Remember what was it in the 90s? He bought a castle in Romania for like $1 million, and he employed all the local citizens around it to help him make his films, and he reused it over and over for different movies.
Yeah, that's right.
Castle Freak.
Yep, Subspecies. A whole bunch of his movies.
Probably some of the Puppet Masters too, I think, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Castle Freak is not that bad of a film. It's like it was never something that was on my radar. And for some reason, I don't know if there was a recent Blu-ray release the last couple of years or something, but during COVID, it was a film that I revisited, and I found it to be not as bad as I remember back in the day as a video rental.
Yeah.
I kind of liked it, so that's very fun.
I think that had a Lovecraft connection, because I remember watching that when it first came on video, and I saw it again recently because it was on Joe Bob's show on Amazon Prime. So let's move on to Saturday, the 24th of September, here in the year of 2022. Your first movie is one of my favorites. I love this freaking movie. It's called The Wicker Man from 1973. Now, I'm going to say I refuse to watch the remake with Nicolas Cage. I am not going to watch that. But what really made me want to watch this was not only Christopher Lee in it as sort of the antagonist, but the protagonist was Edward Woodward, who was on one of my favorite shows, The Equalizer, in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be
Edward
awesome.
Woodward was, he was a huge TV star in England at the time when they made that movie. He did a few movies. He was in a
Breaker Morant
series called Callahan, and he'd done some others. Yeah, well, Breaker Morant was he's a fantastic actor, and he's just on. And I mean, he's not for anything, but I mean, I don't take away from Lee, but Edward Woodward really carries that film, and it's like you kind of with him, and you're kind of like not with him, and you know what I mean, like his beliefs, his character. You kind of think he's a little too stern, but at the end you just you really just feel bad for him.
Yeah,
but he played. I mean, I couldn't see that movie better cast though with him in that role. I mean, that's why, like you say, I refuse to see the Nicolas Cage, because I don't think there's any need for it. I mean, when something is done so perfect, I've never seen the remake of Psycho.
Yeah,
because it's like what I mean that's just me. I don't, it's done so perfect the first time. I don't understand the reason. Oh, I'd watch the sequels because that's different,
Yeah.
But The Wicker Man, it's like it was done perfect, and that's sad, I don't need to see it redone.
And that's the thing. We just did a show recently where we talked about the original Fright Night, and then we talked about the remake. And my takeaway was, I don't need the remake. I mean, it's not a terrible movie. It's a decent monster film, but I've already got the original. I have no need to ever watch the remake again.
Are we talking about The Wicker Man? The Wicker Man remake was okay. The thing that I felt, I mean, I don't like any of these remakes. As you guys have heard me say over the years, I just don't see any point in them. I didn't hate it. I thought that it was a nice idea to get people to watch the original. I love. I really like Nicolas Cage a lot, and especially the films he's been doing recently have been fantastic. I know people think he's way out there, but these recent films he's been doing, especially the horror ones, have been really entertaining to me. But you have to look back at this being the really big first folk horror film, okay?
Yeah.
And I hate that film that just came out like 3 years ago, and I mean, I really dislike it. That Midsummer, I can't stand that film.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Well, it's terrible, and you know what? If I was Swedish, I would find him and punch him in the face. That's for sure. Because people in Sweden don't wear flowers and run around in death cults. That really pissed me off. I'm kind of a pagan. That's kind of my religion and whatever, and I kind of take that sort of mockery very much to heart when people think that this is what's going on. And Midsummer is such a ripoff in so many ways, in my opinion, of The Wicker Man. It just really is, and I don't like it for that reason. Edward Woodward, I wanted to mention to you guys, is massively popular for the TV series The Equalizer. If you guys remember that, the American spy thriller.
Oh yeah.
I think he did a British show called, I'll have to check it here, I think it was called Callan. Yeah, he did a series from 67 to 72 called Callan. I think it ran on the BBC, and that was another big spy thing. So there were people that were big fans of Edward Woodward that a great introduction to his career with the Wicker Man film. And like George said, the ending is just terrible. I can't sit through this film. While we're showing it, I'll find something. I mean, I'll be selling T-shirts, but I won't watch it. I just find it so depressing, especially at the end.
Yeah.
So, but the buzz on it is massive, and George can tell you that. That's all people have been talking about is the Wicker Man. It's like it's going to be a big Saturday night because of that film.
I'm interested. Yeah, I'm interested to see like people that come to this that haven't seen the film or are not familiar with it. Are going to take to it. It's very unusual. You got the music in there, and they mean like, some people might come to the show and go, "What? This is Monsterama." They may not get it, but then I'm hoping Gene's theories are correct that it's got that huge following and
yeah.
It really does. It does. And the funny thing is, there are these when you go back and you talk to these younger fans, which we've been, that have been coming to these shows and stuff, and it's weird how certain films randomly pop out more, something that they understand more and that they're more involved in and wanting to see. And Wicker Man is one of those films. It's like, I'm not quite sure how it reached them, but it did.
Right.
And, you can rattle off like 10 movies of a similar time period with Christopher Lee and stuff, and they'll just look at you like, well, huh? What? And then you say Wicker Man, they go, oh my God, I love Wicker Man. So yeah, George, remember Anchor Bay put out that great box set that was made out of wood. That was such a
I have that.
mess.
I have that.
I do too.
Yeah.
I have it too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I have it too.
that DVD has two versions of the film. One had added footage in, which you can kind of see the difference. Which version are you guys going to be showing?
Yes.
It looks like it's going to be the director's cut because that's what's made available to us, which works well because it's well paced. I prefer the director's cut only because it has has different scenes, but it has more characterization of the Sergeant Howie character at the beginning.
Right.
It really that's what I feel is missing from the director's cut, where it kind of just starts where he's flying to the Summer Isle,
Yeah.
But that's what's available to and a lot of the footage from those exclusive scenes to the director's cut are only available. The quality is a little dodgy. I would say dodgy, but so Lionsgate, or actually it's Rialto Pictures via Lionsgate are making made that available in its director's cut. They've been showing it, for a few years now, and we're also getting to The Devil a Daughter from them.
Oh, nice. So, so speaking of that, moving on that Saturday the 24th, your second film is going to be one of my favorites as well, Horror Express. Just another one that I love. Saw that one when I was a kid, and I remember a buddy of mine and I was staying overnight, sleeping over his house, and we watched it, and it just scared the crap out of us.
For 2 million years in these subterranean caves, a creature of superhuman evil was entombed in a wall of ice, waiting to be free, waiting to live again. Travel with us on a journey into a world where nightmare becomes reality.
Are you telling me that an ape that lived 2 million years ago got onto that crate, killed the baggage man and put him in there?
Yes, I am. It's alive. It must be.
Travel with us, if you dare, on the Horror Express. But you can't escape. No one can stop the fury and the terror of the Horror Express.
And, a great pairing of Lee and Cushing, and Lee's kind of a good guy in this one. So I like that.
He's a good guy. This is definitely one of the best Lee Cushing pairings. It's early 70s. It's a Spanish-British co-production. It does have more of the feeling of a Spanish horror film. The director is Spanish. Most of the cast, it's an international cast of a lot of actors that are in Spanish horror films, genre films.
Like Telly Savalas.
Well, he was, he had done a number of films for that company, Nova Scotia. He had done
right.
Oh, what was it?
We did Lisa and the Devil.
No, it wasn't Lisa. It was I think he did a Western, and he did Pancho Villa.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So he knew was involved with the producer, and I guess that's why he's in that film. But he definitely makes his appearance is fantastic. It's just a great. It's a film that works absolutely perfectly. The monster looks great.
Yeah.
The effects are great. You got some good gore. This was you were saying on WOR Channel 9, they ran the hell out of it, and I mean, it showed up on TV not so long after it was in the theater. So it was pretty wild to see something like that. It was more, you see those newer films in the 70s when you're a kid on television. They looked more, they were kind of, they were different. They were more, there was something more, I wouldn't say frightening, but they had a definite difference than the older Universal films. They kind of creeped you out more.
Yes.
And they were more,
It was this was my takeaway. One, the soundtrack is absolutely haunting. I never forgot it after I was seeing it as a kid. You could hear that song in your head continually. And I found it to be basically an Agatha Christie murder mystery with an alien. It's Murder on the Orient Express with...
it's supposedly based on the same story as The Thing.
As what?
As The Thing.
Oh, yeah. Who Goes
There
There
you
was
go.
the novella, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and here's the thing about it, too, is that, very much so. But, when you were a kid and you're watching this, and George, we've talked about this so many times, it was that great Saturday afternoon British horror film feeling that you just spent 2 hours watching something that was a lot of fun. You didn't lose your imagination. It comes across in some ways almost like an episode of the series Doctor Who, You know,
Yeah.
I mean, this crazy plot with this alien that's been trapped on Earth, and it's jumping bodies, and it's not really horror; it's horror sci-fi. You know, they come upon it like the Doctor and his companion would, and they have to solve the mystery and stop it from spreading and escaping this train. And as a kid, I just ate that up. I thought, my God, if this is an example, I'm thinking in my head as a kid of really good writing and science fiction horror, this is what I want to see all the time. And that's how it worked on the level it did for me. And it was creepier and scarier than the Universal stuff. You know?
Oh, yeah.
It was a lot more frightening. The glowing eye haunts me.
And there's something.
And it actually played on a double bill with Psychomania, the
wow. And
the British Psycho horror film. Yeah.
I just watched Psychomania last night. I had a house guest.
Yeah, so those two were packaged, and again, that was another one that was sold to TV pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
At the same time as Horror Express, so we showed that one. Actually, there's a little bit of trivia with our screening of Horror Express. This is the first movie in Monsterama history that we have actually shown before.
Huh.
We showed Horror Express in the very first event in 2007, but we're bringing it back. We were showing a 35 print of this back then, and it was very faded. And now we're able to bring a nicer, crisper looking DCP of the most recent. So I figured, but I've said this before. It's like, if we show something that we've shown in the past, which is the first time we're doing that, it'll be because we want to, not because we have to. And this is something because in 2007, when we had this first event, it wasn't, an overwhelming success. We had a decent crowd, but it was not, it was just in its beginning. And
yeah,
right.
So a lot of people, like most of the people that come now, were not there, except for Gene and maybe a couple others, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to bring this one to the Lee Centenary celebration.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So moving on Saturday the 24th, you've got, as you mentioned, To the Devil a Daughter, which, man, the cast is unbelievable. I mean, not only Christopher Lee, but you got Richard Widmark, Honor Blackman, Denholm Elliott, and a very young Natasha Kinski. Just an amazing cast in that one.
The evil power of black magic has fascinated millions of moviegoers. In 1967, Rosemary's Baby. In 1974, The Exorcist. And now, a motion picture that probes further into the mysteries of the occult that any has dared before.
98% of so-called Satanists are nothing but pathetic freaks who get their kicks out of dancing naked in freezing churchyards.
I have a feeling I'm dealing with that other 2%.
Richard Widmark challenges Christopher Lee for the soul of a girl named Catherine in the terrifying film of Dennis Wheatley's sensational bestseller, To the Devil a Daughter.
Te adoro et te invoco.
They've got Catherine, and we've got to get her back before it's too late.
When this ceremony has been performed, I shall destroy you, John Burney.
The demons hate you, Raynor. They're waiting for you.
Catherine. You are warned. The full shock, the full satanic horror is yet to be revealed.
It's me! Don't!
And it was written by Dennis Wheatley. It's part of that whole supernatural thing that Dennis Wheatley had done with The Devil Rides Out, also known as The Devil's Own from Hammer, and of course also The
Devil's
Witches,
Bride.
a.k.a. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And good stuff. So it's part of the whole Dennis Wheatley.
Well, I don't think the Witches wasn't Dennis Wheatley, but The Lost Continent. The Lost Continent was.
Oh, yeah, okay, you're right.
And supposedly he did not like this. Dennis Wheatley did not like The Lost Continent. He did not like The Devil's Daughter, but he did like The Devil's Bride, and or The Devil Rides Out, I should say. And this is The Devil's Daughter is definitely Hammer. This is the last of the original Hammer horror films. And I say that, before they reformed reformed using the name in the 2000s or thereabouts. This is the last. It came out in 1976.
Yep.
Shot in 75, I think, and so it bookends because the Frankenstein is like the first Hammer horror film with Lee and the last Hammer horror film with Lee of the original Hammer. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's definitely an edgier film. It's a little off the wall, right?
And it was funny.
They were trying to be modern. They were trying to go with the times of the
HBO. HBO, I think, ran it in 1979 or 70s something. I saw it on HBO. That was the first place I had seen it was on HBO. And I didn't warm up to it. I'll be honest with you guys. I saw it later, and of course bought it. I think when it came out from Anchor Bay or whatever. Liked it a lot, but when I first saw it, I just didn't warm up to it when it came out. So I just didn't. I was in a weird space then. I had just seen Halloween, and that's all I gave a shit about. I wasn't going pro slasher film, but Halloween changed my life, and still to this day in such a capacity that was the handoff from those films to the next genre that I was going to follow, and it didn't ring a bell with me when I saw it the first time.
This is a satanic cult movie, via Hammer I wouldn't say, they were trying to keep up with the times of the modern films like The Exorcist and The Omen, even though this was probably shot around the same time. It came out at the same time as The Omen, so I shouldn't say it's like an Omen ripoff, but they were definitely, you could see with this movie they were trying to.
It was better marketable at the time than it was otherwise. So yeah, totally.
And it was funny because I haven't seen this one in a long time, and I was watching the trailer earlier today, and halfway through I shut the trailer off. I'm like, nope, they're giving away too much. I don't remember it, so I want to watch it fresh without knowing a lot.
and Lee's fantastic in this. He's really sinister. He's like a smirking, defrocked priest who's really just like a wicked character, and he's really good in this.
Yeah.
Great supporting actors too.
Oh yeah, Richard Widmark is. I think this is a really good one that he's done. So moving on, we've got Horror Hotel, aka City of the Dead from 1960.
This is Whitewood, Massachusetts. A young girl, a stranger, has come to Whitewood to do research. She has come, she thinks, to study.
Leave Whitewood. Leave Whitewood tonight. I beg of you. Leave before it is too late.
In spite of this warning, the girl lingers on. The guests are over 300 years old. Human blood keeps them alive forever.
Jersey by the living God!
I hadn't seen this until probably about a year ago. I really liked it. I just don't know a heck of a lot about this movie.
Well, it's a British. It's from the early '60s. It was produced by Milton Sabosky, and Max J. Rosenberg before they actually formed what is known as Amicus. So a lot of people look at this as the first or the precursor of the Amicus movies. It's a black and white. It's a really well made, directed by John Moxey, who later did a lot of TV work, including the Night Stalker movie, but he directed this, and it's shot in black and white. It takes place in New England, so you have a lot of British actors, including Christopher Lee, doing quasi or pseudo or fake, whatever you want to say, in American accents. And they do it well. It's very creepy. Valentine's Isle is very good, and Patricia Jestel playing witches. They're again just really well made, atmospheric black and white movie.
That's sort of what makes
it. It's studio bound. It's very studio bound.
The atmosphere is very
a lot of fog machines but it's one of those films that fell in the public domain. So it not only played on TV a lot back in the day, but it was like a VHS staple where it was like there was probably like like Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
It was probably like a bunch of different VHS versions of it.
Yes, an EP, the EP VHS bargain bin.
Right.
So it's one of the famous.
Very true.
It's one of the famous PD horror movies. Along with like Dementia 13 and The Terror, and Little Shop of Horrors and things like that. All these films
I picked it up at the dollar store, like for on DVD a couple years ago. So
there you go. Well, Patricia Jestel is fantastic as Elizabeth Selwyn. I want to throw that out there real quick. This actress didn't.
Oh, she's fantastic.
Six productions, and she couldn't have been a better character in this film from the very first second that she comes on screen until the very last second she's on screen. She is absolutely. She and Christopher Lee go hand in hand with perfection, and Valentine as well. And I want to throw this out there too on the scene where it's a similar structure to the movie I mentioned earlier, The Crimson Cult. They're almost the same plot in many ways, the same film, and the scene where she discovers the actress, that goes missing, discovers what her fate is going to be in this Candlemas Eve in this town, and a lot of the folklore is very Salem, Massachusetts sort of oriented. I mean, you grew up in that area. I spent a lot of time in Salem over the last 20 years. I was in Salem almost every year for 20, 25 years. I know the area very, very well. And the folklore of Salem is very similar to the way that this folklore runs and the way the houses look and everything. So they got it all right.
Yeah.
But there is so much more to this movie than just that, what they used to call it on the internet, that late night movie with witches that nobody can remember the name of it. It's an excellent production. It couldn't be something better. It's classic.
Yeah, and I went to Salem State College, so yeah, I'm very familiar with that area.
There you go.
Well.
Exactly. Yeah. Point at any house in that town, and that's exactly what the exteriors of this film look like, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's perfect. It fits so well. In fact, I probably watched it on vacation when I was there one time. The films I took with me. I probably did. I watched all that Bewitched episodes when I was there one year. Just for the hell of it. I did.
That's great. That's great. So, you guys mentioned that obviously this year you're doing the Christopher Lee theme. You had already done a Peter Cushing theme. Have you ever done a Vincent Price theme?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we've done Vincent Price nights. We've shown a lot of Vincent Price movies, but But we've done the 5 films as a double feature. We've done a whole night of the Edgar Allan Poe, Roger Corman movies with Vincent Price.
Cool.
And then we've shown, here and there, a lot of Price movies. We've shown Last Man on Earth. We've shown Theater of Blood, The Oblong Box, Scream and Scream Again. Like I said, the 5 movies. Probably a few more. Yeah.
Nice. So now, Gene, I think at this point, I've only known you guys for like 2 or 3 years, but I think at this point I can kind of already know that you're thinking about the 2023 April event already. Am I correct in that assessment? Yeah.
We totally both.
I would say so much so that I haven't been. So much so that it's already in my head.
Can you give us any hints at all?
The kids will dig it. That's the hint.
Okay.
It's a what?
The kids will dig it. I don't mean little kids. I mean the young folks will like it. Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Right, man. Right.
Yeah, man.
No. Anyway, here's the thing. Yeah, I want to talk about that real quick. That process. We're already tossing, ultimately it's his decision because he's a promoter and he really does a lot of programming, but I'm always sort of poking and saying, okay, well, here's the crazy left turn. Let's do this, And we've already gone into that foray already, that discussion. And there is actually, I think, George, between the two of us, we came up with more than enough to double program that whole weekend. So the process over the next 6 months or whatever, how many months will be to sort of, selecting and individually and, putting all your ducks in a row. Totally. And the same way for fall next year. We're looking at a bigger open opportunity here for the fall programming. George has a lot of strong ideas to do some different things. And, the Jaleo Palooza that he created was outrageously successful. Those 2 Spanish horror nights he planned were massive. I was slack-jawed, to be honest with you. I didn't feel they wouldn't be successful, but I couldn't believe the amount of attention and success that existed for them. And it's the same way with Jalapalooza.
Well, I always said that with the Spanish stuff, if you have titles like House of Psychotic Women and Orgy of the Vampires on the marquee, kids, young people, curious people are going to want to come. So it's
right.
Sure, absolutely, yes.
And usually those Spanish films, they live up to the title, to tell you the truth. So
yeah.
So
okay.
Go ahead. I was going to say Dracula's Great Love. We screened that the 1 September. I was, with the lesbian blood-covered nude scenes. I was sitting in the picnic tables at the Riverside going, well, he's done it now. I never thought I'd be sitting here watching this while I'm eating a pizza. But, I think at that moment you realize how far you can push the audience to trying something new when they see that sort of stuff. And it was extremely successful that night. So that's a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I actually had a couple questions I forgot to ask about this September's, or this month's showing. Was it difficult? Well, first of all, were there any films that you wanted to show but you couldn't get for whatever reason? And was it, with the ones you did choose, was it difficult choosing the order of the films?
Yes, because I'll tell you something. I wanted to show The Creeping Flesh.
Oh, yeah.
Which is one of my favorites. Again, the reason why it's because Sony does it's owned by Sony. We could probably get it, but there's no I don't think they have a 35 print. I don't think they have a DCP made. And we don't want to just show, put something to we need a source, in other words. And it was like I want to show the film. I love the film so much I just didn't want to throw it on there. And we already have Horror Express, so we have kind of like we have a lot of Cushing and Lee. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to save it because I can, hopefully we'll be doing this for a long time and I could just throw it on a program of, whatever, like it could be for a random night of 70s horror movies or something, or
Right.
I'm not worried about it because it could be shown in the future still. But that was one of them that I was really thought was going to be on this weekend, but we didn't. The order, Gene was like, to the Devil's Daughter, I think should be later than. I'm like, no, I'm paying a lot of money to show to the Devil's Daughter, and it's got to be, it's a big deal. Yeah.
I didn't say that.
No, but I mean, I think it's
rough,
because of this.
It's rough to choose. It's rough for him to choose the order of these films. It's really a rough thing because Tour Hotel is spectacular, but it ended up in the last spot, for whatever reason. And when George does this, it's a very, very difficult decision because, you have to headline each night with something big, like Curse is perfect for Friday, and of course Wicker Man. Wicker Man would have to be one of the first movies. It can't possibly be second. So
right.
You start out with finding the two major films and then working it's like being a DJ. You know the room, you know the energy, you know the crowd. So
Yeah.
he picks the two top movies that are going to sell because you got to figure a percentage of people, the demographic-wise, coming to this movie this weekend, if they choose to come one night or come two nights and not stay, okay, their bang for the buck is the first two films. So it's got to be two things. There's a nice doubleheader, and then the third film you can work in sort of like something that's a little more esoteric but extremely popular. And then despite the fact that there's another person who's done his show, we love him. But he always calls it the last slot. What's he call it? The shit slot or something.
I don't even want to say what he calls it. He referred it once to the a-hole slot or something like that.
And here's the thing about it. That slot is actually the hottest slot in the world because I can run down the films like the Werewolf versus the Vampire Woman, Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, Shockwaves. I mean, there have been so many incredibly big films with Trog wasn't in that position, wasn't Trog was third, right? When we did Trog.
What was it?
I don't think Trog
Frogs was
the last.
No, Frogs was higher on the.
No, Trog with Joan.
Oh, Trog. No, Trog was second.
Was it second? Okay.
You know why? I'll tell you why. Because Taste of Blood Dracula was first, and since Trog was originally the double feature, I wanted them to be together.
Yeah.
So Trog was second.
But there's been so many movies that he's thrown in that last slot. Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things was the greatest thing to air in that slot because it was cold and lonely and foggy and spooky, and it fit that spot. And
the house that screams. Remember with the fog?
The house that screams.
I can't believe I showed that list. I don't,
See the screen.
Yeah.
It was amazing, and it's like there is something very special about that last slot. So that last slot is, in so many cases, if we were all to sit down and look at all the stuff through the years for April and September, you would find that last slot with some of the most unique, best films that both he and I hold close to our hearts. So it's
the Bat People.
It's rough.
The Bat People.
Yeah, exactly.
There's another one.
Well, we can thank Bill for that one. No,
Bill wanted us to show that. I tell you, and I'll tell Bill. Well, I'll tell Bill again that film was really difficult to get because not only the studio charged a lot for the print, but the print was in storage, and then at the last minute they said, "Oh, we got to pay the storage bill to get it out of storage." So I paid a ridiculous amount of money for the Bat People, and only me, Bill, and Gene really appreciated it. Yeah.
That was the Two Dark Shadows film plus the House that Dripped Blood, and that was the fourth one that night. That was really,
and that was the most difficult
night.
Thing to get was that Bat People.
Right.
And wow, bringing back memories.
It's amazing.
But getting back to your question about the schedule, it was a given from the beginning that Curse of Frankenstein would have opened one night and the Wicker Man would have opened another night with this.
Right. That makes sense. That's awesome.
And there's other Lee films I would have, liked to show and still show, but you got to know, and it's what's available and what the source is, and that kind of thing. So.
Exactly. Well, guys, I was so glad you came here. I just want to remind the listeners that the Drive-In Super Monster-Rama presents the Christopher Lee Centenary Celebration the end of this month, 2022, September 23rd and 24th. And you guys can be found on your Facebook page of the same name. I think you can also look up Riverside Drive-In Theater, too, and that'll link towards this page, too. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on the show. Love talking to you guys about horror movies and stuff that we grew up with and all that.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun. Anytime.
We're in
we like to talk. So
yeah.
So do a 6-hour show.
Oh yeah, I mean we could do one so easily. So first of all, I'm looking forward to having you guys on in anticipation of next April's event. So we'll have to talk like the month before.
Yeah.
And then, in between now and then, if you guys want to come on, you're more than welcome to. You've got an open invitation, talk about any kind of horror movie or, any horror topic. And in fact, I do a live streaming show once a month, the first Sunday of every month, called Fright Lounge. And it's with Bill. And we talk about... Yeah. So you guys are more than welcome to come on that, too, if you want to, talk horror.
Definitely. Absolutely, anytime. Just let us know.
We appreciate it. So you're our first big press of the season. So thanks for that very much. We appreciate it.
No problem.
We were on the end of a Hardee's commercial in Pittsburgh.
We what?
Oh, nice.
We were at the end of a Hardee's commercial on Pittsburgh. They mentioned the show.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
yeah. 1 second, and this I want to mention again too. Don't forget that we're talking here that we were voted the number one film event of the city of Pittsburgh for 2022. So
in Pittsburgh Magazine. Yeah.
Did that happen after we had our last interview with you?
Absolutely. Yes, it did. Yeah, and how can we forget that?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
How the number one film event in Pittsburgh. Voted.
That's amazing.
Not voted. It was not vote. We were written. It's not a vote. We were written up as in the magazine as the best in the Pittsburgh Magazine. So that's a great honor, and that's when you know what you've been doing is really touching people.
Yep.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we've got almost 400 listeners in Pennsylvania, so that's really awesome.
Cool.
And they should all be at our show. So everyone listening.
They should all be there.
Go on that internet, buy that ticket, and save a little popcorn money for them guys out there, and come see me and get a shirt, and you'll be happy for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
I'll give you a shirt off his back.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much, and look forward to having you guys on again.
And we'll see you. Thank you, Ron.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this interview with George and Gene. Don't forget to check out the Drive-In Super Monster-Rama coming in April. The contact information, the Facebook page, I should say, will be in the show notes of this episode. So please check it out. And if you're in the area or you're able to go, do check it out. It's really fun. I went a couple years ago. It was great. I really loved it. I wish I could go more often. It's just I'm in Maine, and Pennsylvania's kind of far away. So, so check out the Drive-In Super Monster-Rama, the Christopher Lee Centenary Celebration, September 23rd and 24th, 2022. So if you didn't already know, we've started up a new live monthly streaming show. Bill Van Ryn from Groovy Doom and the Drive-In Asylum Double Feature and I have teamed up to host a streaming video called Fright Lounge, in which we discuss all horror media. If you're unsure if you want to get into horror or are a seasoned horror fan, this is the show for you. You can check out all the details at havenpodcast.com, and the Fright Lounge link is on the right. Fright Lounge also has a Facebook page at facebook.com/Fright Lounge, which is where you'll be able to keep up to date on all our broadcasting dates and times. We'll be live on Facebook and YouTube simultaneously, and that's how we've been doing it. We've had a few technical issues up to episode 6, but we did pretty good last time, except I kind of screwed up the end credits. But so we've also got another show for you, a new podcast that award-winning blogger Robert Manell and I have teamed up to bring you. It's called The Cult Movie Lounge Podcast, where we'll talk about cult films through the decades. There's so many different genres and subgenres of cult movies that I couldn't explain it all here, but you're going to have to check it out. You can also you can find all that information at havenpodcasts.com. I also wanted to remind you that Patreon is a place where you can support artists, and we've got some cool stuff going on there, including our exclusive Filmmakers series where we talk to writers, directors, producers, basically anybody behind the scenes in film and television. So go to havenpodcasts.com and click on our Patreon link. It's only $3 a month, the same price as a cup of coffee. And when you sign up, you'll be entered into a monthly contest to win actor Sean Kanan's book, Way of the Cobra. It's really good. It really helped me, so I'd like to share that with everybody, so that's why we're kind of giving away a copy of that. We've also got some designs, some awesome designs on our TeePublic page that you love, so grab them up now. And we want your feedback. If you like what you're hearing here, please email us at thenisnow42@gmail.com. You can also join in the conversation at our Facebook Then Is Now podcast group. Then Is Now Podcast is a proud member of the Dorkening Podcast Network, so please be sure to check out the other great shows there at the dorkeningpodcastnetwork.com. Also on our website, havenpodcasts.com, is our sister show, The East Meets the West, in which we discuss Shaw Brothers films and spaghetti western movies. And Then Is Now is on YouTube, so please visit youtube.com/user/UncleDeath1 to get the latest videos, as well as other fun videos. And if you could subscribe to our YouTube page, that'd be awesome. And don't forget to share it with your friends, get them to subscribe as well, and hit that little bell so that you get all the notifications when we put new videos out. And lastly, please, if you're enjoying this show, if you like what you're hearing, if you want more, if you want to help other people find us, go wherever you download your podcasts from, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, one of those, wherever you download them from. And please leave us a great review so that more listeners can find us. It makes us available so that people doing a search will find our podcast. It'll pop up for them. You can find us on all the podcasting apps, as I mentioned, including the big three: iTunes, Spotify, and Stitcher. Class dismissed.
Then Is Now podcast is intended for entertainment, educational, and informational purposes only. Sounds, music, and clips played during this podcast are the property of their copyright holders. All original content is copyright Jupiter Media.
For more shows like the one you just heard, check out the Dorkening Podcast Network at thedorkening.com.